Yes, we are.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WBC Talk. This is our 50th talk. So it's going to be a very special show. I'm wearing this hat because it has the Pistons. And this time it's going to be all about Detroit.
All right.
First, let me introduce 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗. She's the director of the WBC University, and she had a special message for you.
Hi, Victor. Hi, Mauricio. Hi, Jill. Hi, everybody. Well, today, as you say, we are in the 50th anniversary of the WBC Talks. I'm very excited today. And since today is a very special day, I'm not going to give any mental training. I'm just going to share with you a poem that invites us to make a small pause along the way that we've been living during confinement. As human beings, we definitely know our perfect, okay? But we can become always a better persons by making conscious about the possibility of being better, okay? And a good start is to be respectful towards human dignity. So I will proceed right now, if you allow me, to share with you the poem of a woman who was a great leader to the world, and she's Mother Teresa of Calcutta. So I will begin. And this is because of our anniversary, okay? So happiness is neither in the past nor in the future. Happiness is today. The easiest thing is to be wrong. The biggest obstacle is to fear. The biggest mistake is to abandon yourself. The root of all evil is being selfish. The most beautiful distraction is your work. The worst defeat is being discouraged. The best teachers are the children. The first need is to be able to communicate. What makes us happier is being useful to others. The biggest mystery is death. The worst defect is being in a bad mood. The most dangerous person is a liar. The greatest satisfaction is the duty of fulfill. The meanest feeling is being resentment. The best remedy is being optimism. The most beautiful gift is forgiveness. The most effective shelter is the smile. The essential is home. The fastest route is the right path. The most pleasant feeling is inner peace. The most stronger power in the world is faith. The most necessary persons are parents. And the most beautiful things of all is love, okay? I think, and I definitely believe that we can all become better human beings. We are not perfect in any way, but we always have the opportunity of become better persons. And right now, during confinement, this time that we are spending at home, we can think about it. We can make a reflection and become better human beings. I congratulate Mauricio for the talks. I congratulate Victor, all the WBC staff, the WBC University, and let's keep going these wonderful talks all around. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Thank you, 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗. And now let me introduce Mauricio Sulaiman. He's the president of the World Boxing Council. Mauricio, welcome. Your microphone.
I keep doing this. 50 days and I keep doing this. Anyway, I'm so happy to see you. Frank, you look good in the beard. We should go, let's plan I don't know if you all know, we have a band in the WBC. It's called the Low Blow Band. And Frank Garza is a lead guitar, lead singer, and the inspiration of the group. We do this in the talent show in the conventions. Maybe we should do one by remote. Let's get a song going. I'm so happy to see this group. It's going to be a special panel. As always, Jill, thank you so much. You have been a driving force of the WBC Talks. We started this 50 days ago. No, more than 50 days, almost 3 months we've been doing this, because we do it from Monday to Friday. And it has been a ride. It has been a great experience. 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗, the WBC University, invented this mechanism to keep the boxing community communicated and entertained. And I have learned so many good tips from people on how they're handling this situation, and I use them every single day. So I hope that you enjoyed today. I'm very much looking forward to hearing your stories, to learning from you, and to have a great WBC Talks in the WBC University. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mauricio. Now let me introduce Jill. She's been doing these shows in English with me, with us, with everybody. She's putting together a lot of effort and a lot of people, great panels. And I want to thank you, Jill, for all you have done with us. Please say some words.
Thank you, Victor. I mean, this is the most amazing panel to have for our 50th. It's energy, it's fabulous, it's wonderful. So, Victor, do you want to introduce everyone, or do you want me to just get it going and go person to person? What would you like?
I want you to introduce them, and then I have a video that I want to show about the 50th WBC Talk.
Okay, so Frank Garza, what can I say about Frank? WBC every which way, and the king of Detroit. We have Frank over there. We have Bronco McCart, so many championships, and now on the commission. 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗, one of the only people I know who actually when everyone else seemed to be leaving. But we love him for bringing real promotion to the city, and it's coming back. Mary Jo, one of our first, in fact, first super welterweight champion. Unbelievable to see you again, and you look better now. I mean, it's unbelievable. And who is this here with Champion Harrison? Who is he? Please, choose him. Tony?
Yeah, you talking to me? I can't really hear you.
Talking to you. I am talking to you. Can you not hear?
I can hear you. How you doing?
Who is the champion with the champion?
My daughter.
Face there. He's disappeared. Anyway, before we show the film, I'll set this up just a little bit. So Detroit, very. Oh, baby. So Motown, murals, Manny, boxing and Detroit are synonymous. What is Detroit boxing? It's a city that's brought some of royalty, had some of the best champions in the world. And if you walk, if you walk into downtown Detroit, you'll see an arena for almost every sport that exists in the US. But the one thing about Detroit, it's an incredible state of mind. It's a pledge. Despite all the adversities, it urges young people to stay there because it's about fire and passion, and it's about family, as Tony has demonstrated. So, Victor, why don't we go to the film?
Let's go, Jill. Please, Gilbert, show the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime. It's the WBC Talks.
Suddenly, our world came to a stop. We cannot work, we cannot go out, there's no boxing. But the WBC decided to take a step forward. We created the WBC Talks. when this thing is over, boxing is gonna boom, because you fighters are responsible for giving the world so much happiness, so much action, so much emotion.
My little boy. Yeah, what a beauty. I remember when he was a baby. I remember when he was a baby in Vegas. Oh.
A little behind. Yeah.
There you go.
At this time, all I can say to you, you only need one car.
Tell him that now, Mauricio. 5 cars too late, but anyway.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime. Introducing the undisputed world champion of boxing education, hosted by 𝗥𝗢𝗨𝗡𝗗, President Mauricio Sulaiman. It's the WBC Talks.
I'm done. I moved to a house about a mile away. I said, done with these cats. And one day I hear beep, 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 beep. I swear to God, I have 15 cats standing outside of my front door. I said, my God, how could you find me? The cats can, well, they all died off eventually. That's the cat story, yes.
Hello.
My baby boy.
Say hi. Hey.
Hey. How are you?
He's gonna be an entertainer for sure. He's a monster.
And today we celebrate 50 video conferences.
To be able to call those fights and let people recognize that. Yeah. No, I could fight, I did fight, but I am smart when it comes to sports. I am smart when it comes to boxing. Not just girls boxing, all
you know what, I'm missing the learning, and I'm missing the engagement with people, with strangers, and getting to know fellas.
Contact. Michael, what is it that you miss?
The money.
I'm an incredibly fortunate man that survived it. I'm incredibly lucky with the life I've got, and I'm determined that my big thing is I couldn't help anybody on the day that the attacks happened, so I want to dedicate as much as I can to helping people now.
I was very blessed to have been able to be part of the WBC family and to meet, Mr. Senior Sulaiman was so great to me.
Mauricio, you missed your jersey and your hat. This is baseball.
What's up with that?
This is the champions, of course, Kansas City Royals. You know what's gonna happen here, Jill, but this is round number 42, and I have my dog pulling me, and it's gonna be amazing. I just want to introduce everybody.
In which we celebrate the unity of our sport, of our community.
Then I found myself wanting you to marry you, but I'm married already.
Chase.
As we just
I have someone that wants to say hi to you.
See.
Is that Paulie? Oh my God. We're just talking about you, man. I swear to God, I was just 5 minutes ago, I was saying how grateful I was that you came and you appeared on the show. And you know what? You were terrific. And if you hadn't been a champion fighter, you could have been an actor, because you got a lot of natural ability, my friend.
Bill Kaplan is one of the dearest persons to everybody. He's a good guy of the sport. Nice, always humble, always kind, always smiling, and always ready for a good lunch. So
And a good dessert.
Great talks we have had with Mike Tyson, Laila Lee, Chavez, Sugar Ray Leonard, and many of the members of the boxing community.
My father was truly such an amazing person, and people who have had the opportunity to be in his presence know that there was an energy that was there. It's not just about who he was in the ring, what he did outside of the ring. That was all amazing. I mean, you can go to the Ali Center in Louisville and there's floors and floors.
Well, look at Muhammad Ali. I need these pictures. I think Mauricio, please. I need the beautiful stuff. My kids gotta see this stuff.
I'm gonna get a nice album, all the pictures that we have, and give them to you.
Oh man, we're gonna hunt you down. I'm gonna call you tonight, tomorrow. Oh,
yes, my inspirations was Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, Bruce Lee, Elvis Presley. I mean, those were my true idols, because they were so different. They were so special. And I wanted to be like them.
We're very enthused and we're moving forward and we will get through this together.
Billy, is there one you could see yourself playing?
Ken Norton.
I can do it. I can do it. I don't know what you're laughing about. I can do
You can see you can't run from boxing. So however you got started, it doesn't matter. Once you're in, you don't leave. It's like the mafia. You know, you don't leave boxing. Boxing is, you can't get out. We will find you, right?
Dance.
I've seen you sing.
You know what? I don't have to wait for the convention, man. I can do some steps right here. I like to do my salsa, you know, and
Thank you for being part of it. Well, that's it. It went way too fast. It was a great memory. I'm so happy to see our champion, Tony. God bless.
God bless you, Mauricio.
You're in our hearts, and once a WBC champion, forever a WBC champion. I'm very proud of you and what you represent, and now the inspiration that you have for your life as you continue. I just want to say our heart goes to you always, and you're a great warrior. We love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
Thank you, Tony. So I wanted to share, can we share, we started a peace campaign today. I would like to see if we can share that image, Victor, that we sent. And then we go on with the Detroit. ¿Sí tienen por ahí el póster que mandé? ¿Sí está o no?
Sí.
So this is a campaign that started with the inspiration that all our champions give to the WBC, what the champions represent. We are the world. If we can put la siguiente, por favor. And it reads, we are the world, we are champions for life. We're strong but caring, we fight hard but clean. We're respectful and praise brotherhood. We are united for peace. So this is the spirit. We're gonna do a continuous campaign with different postings to sensibilize our feelings. I mean, COVID-19 is hard enough. And to add what is happening in the streets in the USA, it just breaks our hearts. And we all have to go out and speak out and join for peace and just to go ahead and stand up. We're great. We have to get out and be champions. So I wanted to share this campaign and you're welcome to join into it. Okay, ready? Phil.
Me?
Yes, it's you.
This is the Motor City boxing. Of course, Detroit is always linked to cars. My family, my father used to work in Chrysler, so I'm linked to Detroit also. And I love that city. I want to show a picture of the hat that Frank's had.
This hat has been all over the world.
And now let me show you the other symbol of Detroit. If you can show the picture, please. Monument. Gilbert, if we can show the fist.
Oh yeah, the fist.
Frank, this show is all yours.
Let me tell you a little bit about that statue, if you don't mind. That statue was created by a guy named Robert Crumb, a world-renowned artist. And what it depicts is the arm and the fist of Joe Louis. And it depicts the strength of Detroit, how we were able to fight through everything, especially World War II. And of course, Joe Louis is synonymous with the city of Detroit. To tell you a funny story about this particular statue, when it was dedicated, the boxing commissioner at that time told the boxing officials not to go to the event. He considered it a conflict of interest. Well, I had to go there to take pictures, and I was trying to be inconspicuous as much as I could because I didn't want the commission to see me, which meant I wouldn't have any more assignments after that. And we had Michael Spinks, Larry Holmes, George Foreman, Billy Kahn, all the heavyweight champions that were alive were at this event, with a lot of other boxing celebrities. Well, anyway, after the event was over, I was putting my camera stuff away, and a person comes up and he's really like shooken up. And I said, "Can I help you?" And he says, "I need a ride." He says, I'm in trouble. And I said, "Well, what's the problem?" He says, "I'm the director of the Detroit Institute of Arts. I'm hosting the banquet for all the champions for this event, and everybody took off and left me here. I need a ride to the Art Institute." And I said, "I'll be glad to take you, sir." I said, "No problem whatsoever." I said, "But I've got my work car with me, which was a beat up junker." He says, "I don't care." He says, "Just get me there." So I put my stuff in the car, I put him in the car, and we're driving down Woodward Avenue. And he says, "Do you want to go to the event?" And I said, "To the dinner?" I says, "I'm dressed." He says, "Listen, buddy," he says, "you're doing me a big favor. You're coming in and you're going to sit at my table." I thought, wow. So as I'm pulling up, I says, "I'll drop you off and then I'll park around the back." He says, "No." He says, "You're driving your car right up to the front, up to the steps. That's where you're leaving your car, and I'll have my security watch it for you." He says, "Come on in." So I went in, and there was the Michigan Boxing Commission seeing me walk in, and they were like, "What the heck is going on?" But I got to sit with Mr. Sachs, Samuel Sachs, the curator of the Detroit Institute of Arts, and got to meet Billy Kahn and all the other guys. It was just a great event. But that is a symbol of Detroit, and it represents the fist of Joe Louis.
That's a
Very
great.
good.
But you know, I'm sorry. I gotta ask Mary Jo some questions. I mean, she very first super welterweight champion. I mean, soon as Jose sanctioned the women, here came Mary Jo, possibly one of the fiercest women that boxing has ever.
Wow.
And then when your career was done, we didn't hear from you. We reached out sometimes, but you seem to have gone into a whole different life. But I'm also curious because your dad is a Hall of Famer. So what was it like growing up in a sports family? Did he feel becoming a boxer?
Well, you know, it was wild because you don't really realize things until later on in life. But, you know, we just knew as far as, you know, Dad playing football, he had a bunch of helmets and a bunch of balls that we could throw around. And, you know, that was more the extent of it. He was always humble, always Dad, always, you know, it really was never about that. It was probably more a career that he could feed all of his kids. But it was wonderful. There's so many things with sports that transfer on to life, and there's so many life lessons. So that's probably closer to my heart than anything. You can learn so many things, whether it's an individual sport, especially, you know, you have your trainers, you have your coaches, you have your promoters, and they're all with you and they're behind you. But once you step into the ring, it's you.
you know, and it's a wonderful thing because you can take your hard work and own that, and you could take a loss and that's all on me too. So there's life lessons that he taught us just being in sports, which were wonderful. But you know, honestly, to be able to say that my father and I are both in the Hall of Fame is pretty awesome. It's pretty cool.
Anyone else?
Yeah, you know, Jill, I wanted to start out with some things here because we're so close to Father's Day. And I wanted to tie in a little bit about how much our fathers meant to us. And I wanted to start off with Mauricio. And
Frank,
know, Mauricio, you know, everybody in the world loves
Frank,
your father.
1 second. Bronco, you mute I think it's your chair that's making that sound. So if you can put the mute on until you speak, that would be great.
Oh, is it squeaking?
The squeaking.
Might be my bones. Well, let me put it on mute for you. So hold on.
You and mine both.
Yeah.
Frank, pick it up. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. You know, Mauricio, your father, Jose, was so dear to me. I can't express how much I loved your father. And in my opinion, he was the most misunderstood person in the world. He took so much abuse from so many news outlets and people who are supposedly know everything about boxing and they know nothing about the sport. And he remained so gracious and kind through all of this. And I tell people when I hear somebody speak badly of your father, do you know Jose Sulaiman? Because if you did, you wouldn't say the things that you're saying about him. He was the most generous and kind person I ever met in my life, and he did so much for me personally, not only in my personal life, but also in boxing. And it was an honor to know your father. Could you say a few things about him, please?
First, it's hard. You just touched me a little bit difficult. That was a low blow. Didn't expect it. I was in the hospital with my father, and I received an email from Frank in which he described a dream he had had, and in which he described how he and his relationship with his father made his life. My father was kind, generous, loving, very sweet. We had to kiss him 5, 6, 10 times before going to bed, before going to school. Anytime we saw each other, it was just an exchange of kisses and physical warmth. And my mom, they made a great family, and we always stayed together. But being Father's Day, you know, it has been boxing which has saved me as one of the siblings, because I was in boxing with him, and the relationship and day-to-day work I do in boxing keeps my father inside of me. I do not feel he passed away. He stays with me day and night, and it's very difficult to understand. I have not felt sensitive in a long time until you just said that. But I do miss him, but I feel he's with me. So that's a nice picture with a Corona beer. But thank you for your word, Frank. Thank you so much.
That's my favorite picture of you and your dad. And that was at the fight. We were in Mexico City together to watch Edgar Sosa.
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful.
And you know, my father passed away on June 17th, which was a Friday in 1988. And I came from a very large family of 10 children. And Father's Day was a big event in our family. And there's about 6 of us that all have birthdays the following week, right after Father's Day. So we would have a big family gathering. I wasn't able to make it down for that Father's Day, so I visited on Thursday. And the last thing that I said to my father, was I love you. But the last thing that he said to me was, I've always been proud of you. That was the last thing that he ever said to me. And like Mauricio, if you have the picture, there's a picture of me and my sister. When we first came up north, we lived in an abandoned barbershop. When the town that we moved in, there was no place for us to live. So there's a barbershop, there's nothing in it, and we moved in. But I always considered myself the richest person in the world because I never went to bed at night without my mother and father telling me that they loved me. Getting back to Father's Day, Mary Jo, your father was very dear to me.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun. What a great guy. Talking earlier this week, we talked, a couple stories. Your father not only was a friend, but he was a bully.
Please tell that
story. He kept me straight. A really quick story that about Charlie was, he called me up and he said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "Nothing." Why? And he says, "I need you to come down and take pictures at the Walgreen on Jefferson and Mount Elliott." And I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Just come down there." He says, "A big photo op, the Lions, it's a big deal and I need you there." So I went there. If you see the picture, Victor, but anyway, I get there and all the big shots from Walgreens, all the big shots from the Detroit Lions are there, and they're pushing the flu shot. And Charlie grabs me, he says, "Did you have your flu shot?" And I said, no, I get it later on. I'll get it next month. He says, "Okay, good. You got to have a flu shot." So they're going in there, and then the guy from Walgreens gets up and he says, "Now we're going to have Charlie Sanders come up here for a big photo op to have his flu shot." Charlie grabs the microphone. He says, "Where's Frank Garza at? Get up here." So I got my camera and I'm thinking I'm going to take a photo. Charlie takes the camera away from me and says, "Roll up your sleeve," puts me in the chair, and I get his flu shot. Mary Jo, go ahead and finish the story. What was going on?
He hated needles. He hated needles. For he'll go up against a whole line of men, giants in pads, but the needle, he hated it. He was the biggest baby about it. That and dentist, he didn't like not even the sound of a drill. So yeah, I said my dad actually had a flu shot, and Frank was like, "Heck no!" He made me do it. Yeah.
And and then talking about fathers in Detroit, Bronco, your dad Gene, he's still around, great guy, but he has the reputation of being the most nasty person in boxing. That's what we refer to him. Nobody wants to talk to the guy. And there he is lacing up your gloves. But let me tell you, I can tell you behind closed doors the number of times he stuck his finger in my face and told me this is the way it's going to be, or else. And I understood where he was coming from. That's what I got to say. He was looking out for your best interest. And I'm going to tell you right now, Bronco, if it wasn't for your dad, you would have been exploited, you would have been used, and you wouldn't have any money to your name right now. And I understood that. And after a meeting, we would walk out that door, and the first thing Gene would say, "Let's go get an ice cream, let's go get a soda, let's
right.
This or that." When it was business, it was business. But once you walked through that door, it was Gene McCart, the guy from Monroe. And that's something I respected about your father. Please say something about it.
My dad to this day is my best friend. I talk to my dad probably 4 times a day on the phone. I'm blessed and fortunate to still have him in my life. He is my best friend. I know right now without a doubt, I could call my dad and say, "Hey Dad, I just went to the doctor and he told me I need 2 kidneys and you're a match." He'd be like, "What time are we going in, son?" My dad has an unconditional, undying love for me. He's been my best friend my whole life, ever since I've been little, and he still is to this day. And in boxing, yeah, he most definitely took care of me, looked out for me. He always told me, he said, listen, I will be your flak jacket. I'll be your bulletproof vest. Anybody takes a shot at you in boxing is coming through me. And he always went in those meetings with that same attitude. And one of his favorite stories is one time there was a boxing promoter, a matchmaker, and a manager in the room, and they were trying to set up a list of fights for me. And they threw out 5 guys that were all 5 world-class, just animal fighters. And my dad said, listen, you pick one of those 5, we'll fight any of them, but he's not fighting those 5 guys in a row. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. One person said, well, I'm the manager. The other person said, I'm the promoter. And the other person said, I'm the matchmaker. My dad stood up and said, I'm the dad, and that trumps all of you. And he walked out of the office. You know, that's how my dad was.
You know, Dimitri, I don't know anything about your family. I know that you came all the way from the Ukraine over to the United States. So I don't know if you came with your family or whether you had to come by yourself, but what can you tell us about your father?
Yeah, my family immigrated to Brooklyn, New York in 1991 from the Soviet Union. It was still the Soviet Union at that time. And, you know, we were like any other immigrants on welfare and food stamps. And, you know, my parents were looking for a way to make some money. My father worked from 8 to 6, and then at night he went to university to redo his degree so he can find a job, you know, kind of a more professional job. He was same kind of high-level work that he did back in the former Soviet Union. So for my father, I remember the hard-working skills, you know, the fact that he dedicated everything to his family, that he worked very hard. And that really resonated with me through my career as a boxer and as a promoter as well. It's, whatever you do, you got to put in the work. And seeing my father, you know, struggle and work hard for the family as an immigrant here in the United States, really, and when I was a young kid, you know, it was really, really wonderful to see, and taught me a lot of very valuable lessons for the rest of my life.
You know, Victor, before we got on the air, you told me a little story. You told me something about what your father, the last thing that your father had said to you. If you could share that with us, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, my father worked for Chrysler, as I told you, all his life. And he was raised in Kansas. And he loved to work, and he always teaches us that. And he got leukemia. He was very sick, and he got a tumor, so he got surgery. I need to travel with the network that I was working with, but I asked him, should I stay? Do you want me to stay? And he said, I love you. I'm going to be okay. Go to work. That's where his last words with me.
Jill, can you share anything with us?
About my family?
Yes. Your father?
My family came from the Ukraine. I think same place that Dimitri's family came from. My parents were blind. So I had an unusual upbringing. We lived in Coney Island. I dropped out of high school. And they were always disappointed that I never went to college and didn't pursue it. But at the end, my father was very proud of me, and we were very, very close. And I think there's an unconditional love that if you get that from your family, it gives you a foundation to have a better life. There's no doubt about it. Otherwise, you look all over the place to find that feeling. So I'm glad that they died when I was quite young, but I'm glad that I had that feeling with them, that they were proud of me, and I love them. It just was a very, very long time ago for me. But I have a similar story as Dimitri, traveling across and into Coney Island, from a beach town to a beach town. But I want to hear more about Tony. I want to hear what Tony's trip has been. And I met your father a few times, and it was a privilege. He was the sweetest man. You have such a gift for children. Every time you've done, I mean, when we did the stuff in California and you were with those kids and you got down on your knees and you were playing punches with them. And I mean, you have such a gift with children. Where do you get that from? Does that come from your home? I mean, or is that just special to you?
I would probably say it came from my father. My father was just he was very interactive with the community. So he had not only like his real legit 8 kids, but he probably had about 50. That's throughout the neighborhood, throughout the community. Yeah, he loved everybody like he was their own. And I think that's where I got that from. I think my father gave me very instinctive genetics, and he always stood for everybody else more than he stood for himself. And I thought I kind of picked up on that, and I'm still working on it and getting better with doing that every day. But I'm just so thankful that he wasn't a selfish individual. He taught me how to create for other people. He taught me be happy and healthy for what you have, and not whine on what you don't have. And that's been probably one of my best attributes I say about myself, is that I don't value anything that has no value to it. I value people the way he did. I speak with people the way he did. I respect everybody the way he did. I mean, like I said, he did his job, with not only me and my brothers and my sister. He just did his job with the life he lived. He gave everything he had, what he had, and he did his job, and I'm happy. I'm happy because it's a lot of kids, I can say, they didn't have their fathers in their life, and my father was in everybody's life, and he touched many of the people, and he took the job of being a boxing trainer serious. I think a little too serious sometimes. I had to tell him, like, just wind down. But he was extra serious about his job and helping create opportunities for each and everybody that didn't have an opportunity, because he understood that boxing was a way to go fish, and it was a way for you to catch a fish any given moment at any given time.
Are you going to go ahead with the plans you had to build a gym for children? I know that you about that.
Well, I already have a gym. I already own the building. The building just needs a ton of work to it to kind of get it to the spot where we can clothe more people than we clothe them, because I think right now the capacity that we have and the amount of kids that we have is almost like right there, and I have more space. It's got roofs, got to be fixed and stuff. It's got to be a lot of money donated to it. But like I said, I do everything piece by piece. Every time I win a fight, I use the winnings to fix up a piece at a time of the gym, and then eventually when it's all over and said and done with, I think it's smart for the West Side.
Kids must go wild when you see that belt on you, huh?
Well,
when they say,
Tony.
Yeah, what's up?
So you have the building. You need to do work on the building, and you need equipment, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I promise you, we're gonna do a drive to find a way of getting equipment for the gym.
We appreciate that.
I'll ask Frank to get the measurements, the plans, so we can determine what is needed. And I promise you the WBC will work to get as much equipment as possible.
And
That's awesome.
We appreciate that, man. I think our gym, and sometimes I think it's a mentality kind of thing, because we don't have as many supplies as we need. So kids shuffle around all the gloves. But then again, I think that's part of the process when it comes down to becoming a champion and being, mentally strong for the sport of boxing. I think sometimes it reminds those kids that, we ain't got the best gym in the world, but we're going to use what we have to become champions. And I think some of the kids soak into that, and they start to understand that, us sharing gloves is part of hard times, and hard times don't last forever. So that's what boxing teaches.
Tony, I talked to Lois Brown with the Detroit Lions prior to all this coming down, and we want to get together with you too to see what we could do to help you out. So once this is all over, I hope to get back to the Lions and talk to Lomas and see what we can do. But I want you to know, talking about Father's Day, as you heard, some of us have lost our fathers, but we're all very, we all have a relationship with our father. That we're all with you here today. You just lost your father last April, and for those that have lost their fathers, we know how hard it is, and the pain never goes away. So we just want you to know that we're with you on that. And the other day when you were talking, and I mentioned that I never saw your father fight because most of his fights were out of state, but I went back and did some research, and I did see one of his fights. I think it was in 1988. No, it was 86. He fought Anthony Bryant at the Premier Center. And the reason that I had that record was because Fred the Tank Adams, we're talking about Detroit boxing now, so some of these names may not be known outside of Detroit, but Fred the Tank Adams and a guy by the name of Tom Johnson were 4-round fighters at that time. But tell us about, did your father ever speak about his boxing career?
I don't think my dad was, not really. I think a lot of the times my dad took these fights, like I said, in that era, it was a fish, and I think my dad was just fishing most of the time when the family needed food on the table. So I don't think he was proud the way his career went, knowing that he was better than his record showed or better than he presented to the people. But I think a lot of times I talked to him, and he just told me he took most of these fights, have like 60% of his fights on weeks notice, 2 weeks notice, just to get like a paycheck type of thing. So he really, I don't think he was really like enthusiastic about it. When I talked to him about boxing, he told me he didn't even want me to box from the beginning. So
hey, I wish you would have listened to him.
Yeah,
I wish I would have too.
What about your grandfather? I mean, not too many. There may not be many people that know this, but you're in Detroit boxing. Your grandfather is a legend. I mean, a legend. I heard stories about him when I was a kid. His fights with 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗. Oh my goodness. The guys that he boxed against, Georgie Benton. He fought Eddie Cotton in Flint, Michigan. Eddie recently passed away. Dick Tiger, he had fights with Dick Tiger. And, we have so many boxers in Detroit that if they were just a year earlier or a year later, they would have been world champions. And your grandfather, who I have to say his name, Henry Hank, Cameron Henry Hank. If you're in Detroit and you say that, everybody knows exactly who the heck you're talking about. He had something like 96 fights, 62, 40 of them, 40 some by knockout. But he fought all over the state of Michigan. What a great guy. And I had the opportunity to meet him a couple times. Always a gentleman, always well-dressed, great guy. And correct me if I'm wrong, Don Majeski would love this. He worked at the Detroit Zoo. Is that correct?
I probably wouldn't even know that much. I would have to ask my uncles and them all that.
Yeah.
I've got a question for Dimitri. I mean, Dimitri, you're going from Odessa to Coney Island. Everyone's leaving Detroit, and here comes Dimitri. What's the story? Why did you do that? I'm so glad you did, because you're bringing real promotion to the area. And what are your plans as things get better?
So, I first started to come to the Crown Boxing Gym in 2010. I was training with Sugar Hill. And one of the things that I saw in the boxing gym was that there were so many talented boxers, so many good fighters. And when I went to the professional boxing event, it wasn't not a proper, the level of fights did not reflect the talent that I see in the gym. And actually, I remember seeing Tony at that time come to the Crown Gym and really blowing everybody up. He was a really great world champion now and a great prospect back then. So, around at that time, I started to promote my own fights, and I had an idea of doing it sometime down the line. Then I moved to Detroit in 2015, and we were doing the Brooklyn Brawl Boxing Series in Brooklyn, and I feel that consistent boxing is the healthline of the sport. And I followed the Detroit Brawl Boxing Series, and immediately signed some local very talented fighters, and had some great events here. Then I read about Clarissa Shields' Wall Street Journal, and prior to that I've never met her, but this was before her second Olympic gold medal, and I immediately thought to myself that she's the hottest. That's a great picture. That's me, Sugar Hill, Steve Forbes, and Vernon Paris at the old Crown Gym. Great picture. And then with Clarissa, we wanted to build our fan base. We wanted to do a lot of fights with her close to home. And the second fight was at MGM Detroit, and that event sold out. And she fought the Masonic Temple at MGM Detroit again. It's very important for the bloodline and for the health of the sport here in Michigan, here in Detroit, to have these significant televised events, so that the kids and the younger people in the gyms can get motivated, can get inspired, and can know that they work hard enough, and if they win at 3, 4 years, 5, 10 years down the line, they're going to be able to fight for the world title right here, at home in Detroit and Michigan. And that hasn't happened.
History, that's for sure.
But it's great that Tony obviously brought the world title to the city of Detroit. It'd be great if he can have one of his fights here sometime soon. And I do want to say that Tony's father Ali was just such a warm person. Everybody in the boxing community resonated with him. He was a great guy. Everybody's friend was, and real loss to the Detroit boxing community and to the boxing community as a whole. So he definitely was best.
Dimitri, I got a question for you. When I talk to people and everybody's a critic.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the negative things that people might have been saying is they're wondering, why do you have so many fighters from the other side of the world coming here? What about our fighters? How come you're not developing fighters from Detroit? And then they'll say, Emmanuel was a big supporter of amateur boxing here in Detroit. Not only did he put the shows on, but he worked the shows, and he kept an eye on the amateurs and brought them up through the Kronk Gym. Do you keep an eye on the local talent, and how do you respond to a question like this?
So I should have said this before my first question. First of all, I want to thank the WBC and thank President 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗 and you, Frank, and Jill, for having me part of this. I'm very excited and very happy and proud and honored to be involved in this discussion. Amateur boxing is 100% the lifeline of the sport. My job as a promoter is to look for the best talent. And a lot of times the best talent is somewhere else. It's not in the United States, it's at other places. And because I come from the former Soviet Union, I have a relationship to that culture, to that I speak the language. The interesting thing is that we bring pretty much 90, maybe even 100% of the fighters from those countries here to Detroit to train. They live here. They train at the Kronk Gym with Sugar Hill. And sometimes Tony Harrison beats up on them. Sometimes they beat up on him.
No. Never the other way around.
Just kidding, Tony. But there's so much great work here. So a lot of the great fighters, talented fighters from those countries come here, and I believe that's very healthy for the sport, because the local kids here see that there's world-class talent. They get a lot of great boxing to see how these guys train, to see how they live. So it's a great influence to them. But definitely 100% amateur boxing is the lifeline of the sport. I grew up in Star City Boxing Club, which is, I guess, for lack of a better example, the Kronk Gym of Brooklyn. When I started there, Sharon Briggs, Monty Barrett, Louis Collazo, Danny Jacobs, Saddam Ali, Jaden Codrington, the list goes on. So many great fighters and world champions. We all grew up together. And there were thousands of other very talented fighters. They didn't become such great pros, but were all very good amateurs. And more importantly, served as an after-school program for them, and and kept young kids and adults and teenagers out of harm's way and out of trouble, and kept them in a focused environment. And those kids sometimes got a chance to train next to 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗞𝗦, got a chance to see 𝗥𝗢𝗨𝗡𝗗 in the gym, or Shannon Briggs, or whatever, and they knew that these guys, grew up here or grew up close to here, grew up in these gyms. Next month, they're gonna fight Madison Square Garden in HBO for $1 million or $500,000 or whatever, and get a nice car or whatever. So that served as motivation, and they knew that if you work hard enough, if you have a goal, you'll be able to make it. Unfortunately, here in Detroit, the young kids that are in the gyms are not able to see as often as we'd like to. I mean, obviously, they see Tony Harrison in Detroit and Clarissa and Flint, but we love to see more of that. We love to see high quality events here in Detroit where the young kids can know that if they work hard enough and if they win, that sometime down the line they'll be able to fight at Little Caesars Arena or the Masonic Temple or on Showtime, on ESPN, on The Zone, on HBO, or whatever, and be able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Let me piggyback on Frank's question though. He's saying as far as, and this is my thing from our amateur program. How would you know the amateur program? How would you know the amateurs that's coming out of the program if you're not a part of the program? If you're not coming to any of the fights or anything? Me personally, Talita, I think it's a lot of talent here to be spoken for. You know what I mean? But when it comes down to the promoters, they only want to wait till you become a name for them to come look at instead of coming to look at the talent fresh out the womb. You know what I mean?
So Tony, I keep my ear to the ground. I train the gyms, I train your gym, I train the world's best. So, and I always talk to the trainers and to the fighters. So I'm very much aware of what's going on in the city. And I always, at least once a month, check in with several trainers to find out who's the next guy, who are the amateurs coming up. I did go to the Golden Gloves, the Kronk Gym, and I do appear at amateur tournaments. Not all of them, but often enough to be able to know what's going on.
Tony, I wanted to ask you along the same lines. Now you have your own boxing gym. Is your goal to develop a future world champion, or is your goal to keep kids off the street? What exactly is the purpose of your gym in the amateur program? Because you're very active in the amateur program.
Yeah, I think for me, I think being a part of a boxing team is bigger than boxing. So for me, I just think boxing is a way to create strong young men and women from a disciplinary action. For at a young age to keep these guys off the street. I think it's too much. There's too many ways to get veered off into nonsense when it comes to being in Detroit. And I think if you just separate and put these kids in places where they can't get in trouble, or they use their energy from getting in trouble to put it into something constructive, I think we change the dynamic of most of these kids. And like I said, we got, every time it's a tournament, we got 30 kids in the tournaments and another 30 that can't get matched up because of the age and the size. But I think we're doing an awesome job, being what Kronk was in the 90s and the early 2000s. I think Kronk was that avenue for people that didn't want to get an education. And like I said, education isn't for everybody. School isn't for everybody. So I think you kind of give them another way out besides a negative. It's doing something in a negative light, like dealing drugs or something like that. So I think our thing is just creating good men and women for the world. Not like I said, you get a batch of 1,000. Maybe lucky if you one to be lucky to even fight for a world title. So I think boxing is a small part of the mind state that we try to give them each and every day we see them.
Dimitri, you mentioned Madison Square Garden, which for the boxing fan is like the mecca of boxing, or Las Vegas, whatever. But for Detroit, what's the venue that everybody wants to fight in Detroit or be a part of Detroit? And we've had all kinds of venues. And I remember that when I first started officiating, I was asked by my family, what goal is it? What do you want to achieve in officiating? And my dream was to officiate a fight at Cobo Arena. At that time, Cobo Arena was the Madison Square Garden of Detroit. And long and behold, the second assignment I received is Cobo Arena. But Bronco.
Yes.
You fought a lot in Detroit. What was your favorite venue?
Well, you know, I made my.
Guess. I want to say the Glenstock Arena.
That's not Detroit, man. That's Monroe.
I'm gonna say the Palace of Auburn Hills.
Palace of Auburn Hills. I mean, that's where that's where I built my pro debut was at the Palace of Auburn Hills, and I had probably 20-something fights there. So a third of my career, my fights were at the Palace of Auburn Hills. And you know what though? I just want to jump onto something real quick. Your dad, Tony. Man, I loved your pops. You know what I mean? I talk to your pops a lot. I don't know if you knew that or not. I call your dad every once in a while. We just have a phone conversation because what I loved about your dad is when I would say, "Hey, Coach, how you doing?" He'd say, "Man, I'm peaceful, brother." And he would shake my hand, and just the way he said that, you knew he meant it. And I would go home and say, "Man, I talked to Coach Ali, and he would say he was peaceful." The way he said it, I want that feeling. I want to know how he's getting that because, man, that's the best feeling in the world, you know. And then after me and you fought, I hugged your dad. And I told him, I said, "Listen, Coach, that kid's got to win the world championship because I don't just lose to anybody." You know? And so, you know, when you fought for your world championship, you know, I text you that morning, that day, the week of, and said, "Now, you know, it's your time to shine, man. Let's get it. You got it." So I'm happy for you, Tony. You're doing great things for Detroit, you know, and like you said, it started from the root to the fruit. You know, it started with your dad. And he did a good job with you, man. You're doing a good job with the kids in Detroit.
I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
You know, I'm going to go 2 for 2, and I'm the reason why you never asked me who should I bet on a fight because I never get it right. Mary Jo.
Yes.
Your favorite venue, I'm going to say, was 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗.
I mean, I did love 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗. It was a totally different vibe. It was the showroom. It was very intimate. But, you know, just like Bronco, like where my pro debut was at the Palace of Auburn Hills, I love that place. I love that place. And I mean, you could feel the energy and the cheers and the support through the canvas of the ring. And it was just electric. Yeah. So, and there were some really great shows, some really wonderfully matched bouts. And that's my favorite. That's gotta be my favorite.
What about you, Tony? You only, I think, 3 or 4 fights in Detroit, but is there one that's favored, or is there a place that you would really want to have a show in Detroit? Where would you like to fight?
If I had to say my favorite had to be Masonic. You know, I'm a little more ghetto and ratchet than everybody else. So I like the territory that. You know, like when you go to a Michigan State game and you playing with Michigan, how rowdy it is. I like those I just like those kind of sceneries, and I think that's what the Masonic gave me when everybody came and then we packed it out. I think I had to say Masonic. You know, I'm just bougie like that, I guess.
You know, I gotta tell you, the Masonic, there's no place to park. You go into the door, you have to go through a maze to get to where the show's at. The locker rooms are downstairs, upstairs on the other side of the building, but it is very intimate. And getting back to venues in Detroit, Dimitri, what's your favorite place to promote in Detroit?
Well, we promoted several events at MGM Detroit and several at the Masonic Temple. I think the Masonic Temple, like Tony said, it's comfortable. It's down with the people. It's a great place. But we would love to have boxing at Little Caesars Arena. And I think if we can have an event with Tony and with Clarissa and maybe the Rell brothers, that would be tremendous. That would be amazing. And it would take, you know, for example, when the Barclays Center opened up, it took leadership and a love for boxing from the ownership of the venue to invest in the sport of boxing and to bring it back in that way, in a consistent, high-level way. So I believe with everything that's going on in the country now, I think it's going to be much more challenging to stage events. But when things open up, I feel that Michigan, Detroit, and the Little Caesars Arena is one of the best-looking venues and most comfortable places that I've personally been to. And it will be really tremendous to bring big-time boxing there in a consistent way. And that would rebuild the city on many levels. It would encourage the youth. It would encourage the amateur boxing program. reward great fighters from the city of Detroit, guys that are prospects, contenders, champions. And I think that Detroit City has one of the few cities in the United States of America that's all major league sports: baseball, football, hockey, basketball. But all those teams, are not doing so well. The only sport that brought world championships to the city of Detroit is boxing. It was 𝗧𝗟𝗡𝗗 Shields and Tony Harrison. And obviously there's a great history of the sport of boxing in Detroit, and working hard to create that excitement and to do a deal with a streaming service or a TV platform where we can do these events here on a consistent level. We are in conversations with several, and hopefully those plans can come to fruition, and we can get, there is a significant business community here in Detroit. There's Quicken Loans, there's other big companies, there's Ford, and we'd love to create a dynamic where those companies would get involved, where the city of Detroit would get involved, and really help us rebuild boxing here and bring it back here on a consistent level. You just showed a post of Clarissa on the screen where she fought 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗. That was her first national televised fight, and she's the first woman in the history of the sport to headline, to be the main event on a major cable network.
I have two quick questions, and then we're going to have to wrap it up. Quickly, Mary Jo, do you miss it at all?
Oh, all the time. All the time. I mean, I miss the smell of it, literally. Like you walk in there and it is testosterone and ferocity and fear and just fearlessness. And I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. And then you hear the bag and you just, I can understand why people are, in their 50s wanting to come back and still fight. It's something that is, as physical as it is, it's so much more mental, and as violent as it looks, it's such a beautiful dance of skill and repetition and having no fear. It is the sweet science. It really is. So heck yeah, I think once you've done it, or even as minimal as taking a boxing class, you have that S on your chest, and especially for women, we are not programmed for this. So to be able to get in the boys club and kick the door down, maybe in a stiletto heel, and be respected and taken as a fighter, just a 150-pound fighter, 146-pound fighter, aside from gender, is wonderful, and you get the respect because you work, and nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can take your hard work away from you. So yes, I miss it every day.
As a champion, we wish that you would join us at the women's conventions and the conventions altogether and pass that passion on. And going from boxer to commission, was that a big transition? Do you think, as a boxer, does it bring something special to that job?
I really think it does. I think it brings you the fighter's view, and you're going in looking at things a lot different. One of my first meetings, I said I didn't get on the board just to, when fighters do things wrong, to fine fighters and suspend fighters and do all that. That's not what I'm here for. If that's what this board is about, then I'm going to do something else. And it's not what it's about. We've got together and tried to make things better for the sport of boxing, specifically in the state of Michigan. The WBC sets a lot of great platforms for a lot of things that they do nationally that a lot of local places should adapt to. I think they're a great organization, do a wonderful job, and I think I bring a different type of view to it, because I'm there as a commissioner, but I'm there as a guy that's been there as a fighter and understand what these fighters go through. And it's more than just finding fighters and stuff. It's about making the sport better for everybody involved and making it more fair.
Big difference. So we're going to have to wrap this up. Mauricio, anything else you wanted to say?
Just it's been special. It's been very nice to hear. It's been emotional. It's been entertaining. And I'm very excited to I like to have, when we do these talks, to get actions from what happened. So I'm coming out with a couple of actions. We're gonna equip a gym for our champ. And I would like to start communications with the commission, Bronco. We have a lot of materials that we can share. And if you can distribute it and use them in your commission, your state, awareness program for anti-doping, awareness for weight management, financial information, etc., etc., etc. So I would like to see if we can do a bridge between the WBC and your commission so we can share. And because what you just said is perfect. You are not a commissioner to punish and to fine and to suspend. A commission to teach and to give the elements and the tools for the fighters and the trainers and the gyms to be more successful and to have a greater success.
100%.
I'm living with actions. Mary Jo, our pride, beautiful champion.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe.
Champion.
Thank you.
And Dimitri, he's very enthusiastic. There's no word, no does not exist in his vocabulary. And we'll always be supportive. I'm very happy of what you do and how you do it. You really try to reinvent the wheel, which is always very important. And to Frank, nothing to say. Simply my love, my gratitude, always there, always smile, always ready. When there's something that we need, we go to Frank and we know it's gonna get done. So it's been a very nice panel. I wish you the best. God bless. Tony, you'll be back. You'll be back. I'm ready to see you get back in the ring and get your green belt back.
Well, thank you, Mauricio. As you said, I would love to go to a fight in Detroit. There is two of my biggest passion, cars and boxing. So it will be perfect for me to be there.
Wait, Motown. Don't leave out Motown.
Yeah.
I was there, Jill, in the museum, the Motown Museum in Detroit, one of the times that I went there. So I would love to go there, visit Frank, say hi to everybody, visit Tony too, of course. And it will be great. Thank you, Frank. Thank you very much for this panel. Any comment?
Yeah, you know, I'll make it very brief. I just want to tell these guys and girls here that I tried, along with the Detroit Sports Broadcasters Association, to get boxing recognized as the 5th franchise in Detroit. We just couldn't get the news media behind us. And the other thing I want to say to Bronco and Mary Jo and Tony, and one guy that I'm campaigning very hard for is Tom Boom Boom Johnson. I have been fighting for years trying to get him nominated to the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. The guy's had over 15 successful title defenses in the featherweight division. And he's not the only boxer. We have to get more of our boxers inducted into the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. So I'm fighting for you guys. I'm trying my best. And God bless you all. And stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you,
Frank. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jill, so much.
Let's do the virtual hug from outside. Come together to the computer or the phone, and we hug each other.
All right.
Mary Jo, don't be a stranger to us, please.
I will. I won't, Jill. I won't. I won't. Did you get my number while we were doing this in the beginning? Oh. Thank you so much.
Have a great rest of your day. Stay.
Thank you, guys. You
Thank
too.
you.
See ya.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Frank.
Thank you, Jill, for 50
Bye, Mary Jo.
Bye, Mauricio. Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.